Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's meeting of the Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee. First, I'd like to introduce the top table. To my far left, we have the Vice Convener, Sheila McCall, Councillor Sheila McCall. Next to her is the other Vice Convener, Councillor Jack Welsh. To my immediate left, we have our new Director, Alison Williams. Welcome to our committee for the very first time on this top table. To my right, I have the Committee Services, Adam Taylor, and to my very far right, we have our new Lead of Housing Service, Elaine Ritchie. Welcome to you all. Can I ask Adam to confirm apologies and received and take the roll call, please?
Thanks, Convener. We've had no apologies submitted this morning. The majority of members are actually present in the chambers, but we do have 4 online. I will just ask the 4 online if they could just confirm that they're in the meeting. Bailey Ahern.
Present.
Councillor Braun.
Yes, present, Adam.
Councillor Frampton.
Present.
And Councillor James.
Morning, Adam.
Thank you. That's all members present, Convener.
Can I remind councillors and officers who are online to use the chat box to get my attention and take things forward? We had a meeting on Monday, a councillor briefing on Monday, and I think it was confirmed that when people have questions, we'll take one question at a time, and the multiple question option is no longer open to councillors. And for the questions related to the fire service and police reports that we get, we have the fire service report today. I will restrict the questions to half an hour for the report, so get your questions in quickly. Obviously, I'll go slightly over that should the topic be very interesting and very topical, because obviously, and it's just to try and move along. We did have a meeting where we overlapped into the IGB's time, and we want to prevent that in the future going forward as best we can. So trying to manage the agenda and times as best we can. But today's agenda isn't very big, so there isn't too much pressure. Item 2 on my agenda, can I ask that there are any declarations of interest into the business of the agenda? Anything online? There's nothing in the chamber. Item 3, minute of the previous meeting. Have we agreed with the minute? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 4 is the outstanding business statement. Are there any questions related to the outstanding business statement? Can we agree the current outstanding business statement? Thank you very much. So item 5 on our agenda is a presentation from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service regarding their water safety capabilities. Can I ask the Group Commander, Serge Kabamba, could you introduce who's going to do this presentation for us, please? Serge, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
There we go. I couldn't
There you go,
unmute there. I'd been locked out. However, morning everyone. This morning, as you're aware, we will be delivering a presentation on our water rescue capability. It's a presentation that will be delivered by Station Commander Jim Snedden, who is the water rescue lead for SFRS, and he'll be happy to also answer any questions on conclusion. It's also worth noting today that following Area Commander Sharp's retiral, we're joined by the LSO for PCAD Area Commander Derek Keaton, who's also in the call and may wish to say a few words during this meeting, but I'll leave that to him. So without further ado, if I can bring in Jim. Who may also have been locked out. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I was locked out as well there. So, yeah. So as Serge has already mentioned, my name is Jim Snedden. I'm the station commander at Perth Community Fire Station. I'm also the water rescue lead for the whole of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. And I just wanted to bring in a kind of short presentation to discuss what we have water rescue capabilities within Scotland, and in particular within PCAD. So I'll just start the presentation if that's okay. So as I mentioned, the aim is to provide partners with the knowledge and understanding of the capabilities available across the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and in particular the PCAD area and Perth and Kinross. Next slide, please. So across the service, out of the 350 stations we've got, we have 78 fire stations trained to what's a water level 2, which is a flood rescue capability, so a flood first responder. We've got 20 stations trained to swift water rescue, which also incorporate, we've got 20 inflatable rescue boats attached to that. And kind of aspirationally moving forward over the next year or so, we'll have 25 flexi duty officers trained to the kind of tactical advisor level for serious flooding and protracted water rescue incidents. Next, please. So within particular around the kind of PCAD area and Perth and Kinross in itself, we have got 4 stations within Perth and Kinross that's trained to level 2. So we've got Comrie, Blairgowrie, Aberfeldy and Kinross, and within the Angus and Dundee area, we've got Kirriemuir, Brechin and Balmossy. These 7 stations came online in January 2023. It was identified back then that there was a gap within the kind of area for level 2 flood first responders, and the 7 was decided after the kind of serious flooding in Perth in 2015, took into account the amount of resources we had available, and it was established that if we could have 7 flood stations within the area, then that would be beneficial to the PCAD area. The crews in these stations can perform rescues or evacuations in water that's safely wadable. So anything that doesn't compromise our PPE, isn't fast flowing. As you can see from the pictures, you know, that is good for going round door to door, searching and reassuring people. And if the water's faster or it's deeper, then we can use our swift water rescue team. So if we could go to the next slide with that, please. So across the service, 20 water rescue teams, 2 within PCAD, 1 in Perth and 1 in Dundee. The organisation has made a significant investment over the last 3 years, from having the water rescue unit, so the van itself, standardised across the service, the PPE that the personnel wear, the equipment that's carried within the van, and we've just purchased 20 new inflatable rescue boats, new trailers, new engines, which are more suitable to the risk profile within Scotland and within the PCAD area. These units are mobilised with 5 personnel. So any water rescue incident that comes in, we'll get 2 of these units, 5 personnel on each. Each member of that team will be trained to swift water rescue technician level, and 2 of the members in that team will be trained to swift water and flood rescue boat operators. So we have got the luxury, I would say, of having 2 water rescue stations within close proximity, but we can also call on other stations from Stirling, Glenrothes and further afield, depending on the level of incident that we're going to. Next slide, please. So our swift water and flood rescue boat operators, or SFRBOs that we call them, they are trained within up in the Falls of Laura at Connell, just outside Oban. They attend a week's residential course where they learn the absolute basics of boat operating, so the slow speed manoeuvres, going up to moving in fast flowing water, doing evacuations from height, using the boats and standard fire and rescue equipment. We also do rescues from static positions, so it can be simulated as a car in the water, if you see for the picture in the bottom left there. And we've also got non-powered inflatable crafts for working on mud and ice and unstable ground. Slide, please. So again, using if you look at some of the rivers surrounding Perth and Kinross and across the country, it's not always a capability to put the boats in the water. So utilising some of the non-powered crafts, we can make up systems to manoeuvre equipment and personnel and carry out rescues, and having that safe system of work in place. And there's a range of rivers, certainly around about the Perth area, where we would be unable to deploy a powered rescue boat. So using the inflatable crafts that we've got is really beneficial. It's probably our kind of first point of contact, because these are inflated on the back of the boats and they're really quick to get to work. So it is a really good piece of equipment that we've got available to us. Next slide, please. We've seen an increase over the last few years of rescues from ice, and it can be down to dog walkers with their dogs off the lead. The dog goes onto the ice and falls through it, then the owner goes in and tries to rescue it and ends up in the water itself. We've seen an increase in incidents where young kids, young families are walking out onto the ice. So we've got a training package in place for that when the weather permits. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great year for the ice this year, but when it does permit, we try and encourage our crews to go out and train as much as possible, utilising pretty much everything we've got to our disposal at the time. We are anticipating moving forward there will be more incidents on ice, and it is something that we've taken into consideration. Next slide, please. So again, with the increase in flooding across the service, we've got high volume pumps available. We've got 4 across Scotland. We've got 1 in Dundee, which is beneficial for us. We've got 1 in Falkirk, and we've got 1 in Clydesmill in Glasgow. These are national assets. They're capable of moving large quantities of water from one place to another. These are deployed to a forward control point, given the information that we received from SEPA at the time, and they're really big bits of equipment. They do block roads when they lay out the hose, but they are easy to deploy. They are beneficial, but there's a lot to take into consideration. If we're moving large quantities of water from one position to another, then how's that going to impact the communities downstream for that? So it is a really good piece of equipment, and they are readily available. We have had them at forward control point at Perth for Storm Brecon, for Storm Babette, sorry, which affected Brecon. They were used in Perth as well. So it is a really good piece of equipment, and for Perth and Kinross, we are pretty much surrounded well with capabilities to assist in any of these type of incidents. Next, please. What we've started to do, what we've, as an organisation, and particularly at Perth, we have started to create incident response plans. These incident response plans are really beneficial for us as an organisation, for partner agencies such as police, Coast Guard, and SORT teams. And the idea is that crews from Perth will or have identified a number of stretches of river within the Perth area that are problematic. So the stretches of rivers that we go to on a regular basis. It allows the crews to go out and identify hazards, look at the direction of the water, look at the man-made structures, the bank erosion, the riverbed morphology. So what's the riverbed made up of? What are the challenges? And the information that they gather at the time, it comes back, and we will put it onto what's called our incident response plan. These incident response plans will be printed off in A3 size, which we could hand to partners, but they're also downloaded onto our GTEC tablets, which each of our frontline appliances carry. And it just means that anyone attending this incident at this place has got identical risk information before they get there. We can establish rendezvous points, we can establish launch points, and it's just to give them that overarching view of the incident prior to them attending. So when they get to the incident, we can get to work knowing the hazards and risks, which makes it better for firefighter safety, better for partner safety, and better for the public safety as well. The organisation as a whole has identified that climate change is one of the key challenges. It definitely will be within the next 10 years moving forward. His Majesty's Fire Safety Inspectorate attended the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service mid-2023, and they were looking at our capability to respond to incidents related to climate change, such as flooding and wildfire. They were in the service for a couple of months, and they went around various stations. The report that they've published just a few months ago does say that the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service has developed this water rescue capability, and it's in a really good position to respond to any future flood incidents. That all came together at the Brecon incident, where we had resources deployed from across Scotland. We had multi-agency response with Coast Guard, SORT, police, and having that joint understanding of the risks and working together. I think we are better prepared now than we were 10 years ago, and hopefully we'll be better prepared moving forward. That was a kind of whistle-stop tour of our capabilities within Scotland, within PCAD, and within Perth and Kinross. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Jim. Let's see if we get another question. Councillor Forbes.
Thanks, Convener. Jim, thanks for that interesting presentation. A little while ago, we had a similar presentation from the Police Mountain Rescue Team, which was also really interesting, but they spoke quite a lot about water rescue and the capabilities that they've got. Yes. Do you work quite closely with them? And what would happen if you both turned up at an instant? I mean, are you all trained to exactly the same level? Could they get on one of your boats? Could you get on one of their boats? And would you work kind of hand in hand?
Yeah, absolutely. The police and the service work really well together. The benefit we've got as an organisation, we've got the assets available. You know, the police have got assets available as well. Their marine unit and the diving unit are all trained to the same level as our firefighters, so they're all trained through Rescue 3. We have in the past worked with the dive team where we'll take them on the boat and we'll work with them. And likewise, I've been a number of incidents where I've been on the police boat doing searches and stuff. And I think having that understanding between all agencies is a better result for the people who are in need. The one thing that we can't do, what the police can do, is we can't go subsurface. We've not got the training or the capability to go subsurface, and that is pretty much a police Scotland asset that they've got. But we will assist in any incident for missing persons and working with the police. But absolutely, the training is exactly the same.
Councillor Leishman.
Thanks, Convener, and thanks very much for the presentation. That was very interesting. With the climate emergency we are facing, it's generally accepted that floods will become more likely. What equipment makes up a firefighter's basic flood response kit?
So basic flood response, so level 2, and we'll go for that, is a 2-piece dry suit, a aquatic safety helmet, a wading pole, throw bag belts, helmet, torch, and that is the basic equipment that we would need to deploy our flood first responders. Our SRTs, the level above, is much greater there in a full piece dry suit, personal flotation devices. Our level 2s have life jackets at the moment, but because of some of the feedback we received recently, we're going to look at getting personal flotation devices because it adds to the thermal and impact protection, and it's a better option. So level 2s, that's the basic equipment they would need, and level 3 and 4 is we just up that. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
No, that's great. That was very interesting. Thanks very much.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you very much, Jim, for that presentation. One thing I noticed in the presentation was a car underwater.
Yes.
And a lot of social media I've noticed recently, they've been advertising a special gadget to get you out of a car. Now, what I would like to know is that obviously we all thought that we'll go into, if we got in that situation, we'll wind down the windows, etc. But as you know, modern cars now are full of technology that doesn't work. I haven't seen an awful lot of say promotion as to how to handle this, and it's obviously going to be something that will unfortunately happen, and you won't be there if it happens instantly. Would you think there should be some sort of social thing, you know, a media campaign, or is there somehow you could alert people to say, look, this is something you should do when it happens? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a really good question, actually. There was in the past, through social media, if a car goes into the water and it's submerged, so, you know, a glass hammer, something like that within the vehicle. And I know a lot of the service vehicles have got these in them. And I know a lot of people round about my area, friends of mine, have got glass hammers within their vehicle as well. Absolutely, electric windows, you know, are either really difficult to come down, or some of the new car technology means that if the car is submerged in water or it's affected by water, all the windows will drop down anyway. So it's a really difficult one to deal with. Most of the vehicle in water stuff that we deal as an organisation is people driving through floodwater, so it's not that submerged vehicle altogether. But we have had it. We've had it in the River Clyde. We've had it in the River Forth, where cars have driven off the banking for whatever particular reason, and it's submerged. But I think it's something that we could definitely, as an organisation, do a social media kind of post on it, and I think it's something as simple as a glass hammer within the vehicle would be beneficial to manage that glass when it was submerged.
Thank you very much. I know how important it is to rescue people, because when I was a young guy, I saved someone and I got a 10 bob note. So what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. I wanted to ask the station commander a bit more about the incident response plans. Perth and Kinross is obviously a really big area with a lot of different waterways. Can you give us an indication of how many incident response plans there are for Perth and Kinross, and what are the main problematic stretches of river and hazards? And I know we're not allowed supplementaries, but I'll squeeze in a second one, which was, do you make use of drones and camera technology for river searches or rescue searches? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll answer the second part of that first, because I'll probably forget it when I go through the incident response plan. Yeah, we as an organisation, we don't have drones, but the community asset register, we do use that for companies who've got drones. I think drones are really beneficial when searching waterways and riverbanks. I think, as far as I'm led to believe, it is something that the organisation is looking into at the moment to have drones. Other organisations across the UK have got them, and they're beneficial for all types of incidents, not just water rescue ones. So we do use them. We get members of the public turning up with drones as well, and you know, flying them and coming back and saying, I've got a picture of this, what do you think? But at the moment, we would use the community asset register for anything like that. The incident response plans, we've identified 7 areas within Perth and Kinross. Obviously, the River Tay, I've split the River Tay into 3 sections because of just the pure size of it. We've got Brewer, we've got another few stretches of river where it has been problematic. We've got the Loch Tay, we've got, just due to the size of it and a number of incidents we've attended there, we decided that, or we discussed that an incident response plan would be beneficial for the launch points. It's not always the crews from Perth and Dundee that are attending. If they're at another incident, we could potentially have Stirling and Glenrothes coming up. So at the moment, we've submitted 7 for publication. That doesn't mean to say that there'll not be more than 7. As soon as the crews have identified somewhere, either by going out training in the water, or if the police highlight areas where there's an increase in youth gathering at a specific point, then we'll create an incident response plan for that as well. It's quite you're absolutely right, with the amount of waterways we've got around about the Perth and Kinross area. It's really impossible to do every stretch of river that we need. So it is a kind of live document type thing where we'll continue to monitor it moving forward. But at the moment, we've got 7 identified, and hopefully they'll be published within the next couple of weeks. And these will be sent out across all the stations, and just for an update. All the answers are.
Now to online, Councillor James.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. And Jim, thanks. Excellent presentation and excellent service you guys provide. I think Peter's pretty much asked the question I was going to ask. And being parochial, my ward includes Stanley and Stanley Beach in particular. Lynn Road has always been a particular problem, and the access to it. Is there anything or any message that we haven't already got out that we can get out, or is there anything we can do which will make life easier for you guys to access our waterways? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the part of the incident response plans and having that access, because it is one of the parts on it that we discuss, access and egress. is to identify these areas that are difficult to get into. And once we've established that, then it will be going back to partners and maybe doing something ourselves, or speaking to the landowner, or seeing how we can increase that. And it's the same for, you know, some houses, big houses that's got trees and stuff for access for fire engines. It's all stuff that we consider when we go, and it's all the stuff that all this, I say small stuff, but it's big if it was an incident, that takes time in getting that agreement from the landowner to go in and say, can we remove it, you know, a tree, or can we cut back this area? Then it comes down to who's going to pay for it with some of them. But most, to be fair, most landowners are really helpful. They're really knowledgeable about the waterways within their area as well, and they've always been, you know, willing to help as much as we can. But by doing these incident response plans, that's where these things will be highlighted. Then we'll go straight to the landowner, or speak with our colleagues or partners and see if we can increase that access and egress for that area.
Thank you very much. Councillor Welsh.
Thank you for the report, Jim, and thank you, convener. So my question is the administration's recognising the frequency and impact of flooding and other incidents in communities, is looking to support and encourage resilience groups within communities. Could you just say a bit more about how you liaise and work with those groups, and practically what you do? Thank you.
Yeah, so our our engagement team work with these groups. You know, we discuss the water safety aspects of it. We discuss it with LRPs of what our capabilities are. It's just having that joint understanding and that better working relationship with everyone that's going to make these incidents. I'm not saying it's going to stop them, because we'll never stop Mother Nature, but it's going to make them easier to manage, to assist the people that's affected with it. But there is a lot of things going on in the background with our community engagement team, with our LRP personnel as well. So there is a lot happening in the background with that to make that happen. Again, we're working with police, with the Coast Guard, and with the RLNI, who are all who all assist with these type of incidents as well.
Thank you. That's helpful, but I think you know, it's useful just to understand practically how we're taking that initiative forward to get the best out of it. But thanks for that answer.
Councillor Donaldson.
Basically, thanks, Mr. Steddon, for your presentation. I think basically Councillor Welsh has asked my question, but it is the degree of integration and communication between what you do and indeed local resilience groups. Obviously, the area where I'm especially concerned is with Comrie, which has avoided problems over the last 2 years, but had major incidents in 2012, and has a river. The Rúchal Water is probably the one of the 2-3 rivers in Scotland that's most prone to very quick flash flooding, and where a problem can become very rapid indeed. So yes, anything further on just how you link in with local resilience groups, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was aware of the Comrie incident back in 2012, and at the time it was agreed that, you know, so when we get these warnings from SEPA, that crews would go out and monitor that. To be honest, I've not got an answer for it, excuse me, just now, but it is something that I could go away and find out and communicate it back.
Commander Babamba wants to come in as well. Sure.
Yeah, thanks for that, convener. Yeah, just on the back of those queries, just to provide elected members with reassurance, We do link in very closely with mainly the Tayside LRP during significant events, and also what has increased over the recent period is training. It was identified through a number of severe weather events that all partners were needing to work more closely. Therefore, since that time, through Resilience Direct, we have undertaken a number of CPD events whereby, you know, we're looking at how to use the system more effectively, how to tie in collaboration and provide that more efficient and effective emergency response. And that was highlighted during the LRP debrief for Storm Babette, where again the kind of impact of partnership working was highlighted, as well as best practice and areas for improvement. So it's something that we are aware it is a responsibility under Civil Contingencies Act, and within Perth and Kinross and the Perth, Kinross, Angus and Dundee area, we have a lead who ties in directly through the prevention, protection and preparedness function with partners in each local authority area to ensure that we do work to build and strengthen that collaborative, resilient approach within communities.
Thank you, Serge. And Elaine Rich would also like to comment on the basis of how the council input into this process.
Just picking up what Serge just said there, we've got the community resilience group and we've got a community resilience manager that links in with the fire service. So when the alerts come in, they're on call 24 hours and they link in really closely with the fire service. So there's really good communication there. And just picking up what Serge said, the recent issues around Christmas time in terms of the flooding and whatnot, we've done a workshop and we've done a lessons learned in terms of improvement with communication and partnership working. So there is a lot of ongoing communication and dialogue between our community resilience manager and the fire service.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. Thanks, Jim, for the presentation. Very interesting. I'm going to be parochial as well and follow on from what Councillor James and Councillor Donaldson were saying. I see your guys out, the local team out training. They're out last week training on the local river, River Erict. See all the equipment there for them. But our bigger problem here probably is flooding. In parts of Rattery, serious flooding. There's fast flowing water as well, and although the council is trying to solve the problem, the source of the problem, but it's likely that's going to be some years away. Simple question, I mean, can people contact the fire service for advice on flood prevention, what they can do to ease the problem? I presume make it easier for you guys if there's a serious problem, and we have had it here, not recently, but a couple of years ago there was very serious flooding in Rattery, which led on to other parts of the area. So can they contact? I mean, I don't expect you to go door to door offering advice, but can they ring you and ask for advice and have a visit like you do the fire prevention, the smoke alarms?
Yeah, listen, absolutely. We're more than happy to provide as much advice as we possibly can. And you know, crews coming out just to provide that bit of reassurance. The unfortunate thing is these flood events have got 4 phases, haven't they? You know, we've got that pre-flood warning stage where members of the public who are going to be affected have got that really difficult decision to make. Are we going to leave the house or are we going to stay put? Then we've got that flash flood and so on. But there is a lot we can do prior to any flood incident, and the organisation, would be more than happy to provide advice. And even if it means having access to sandbags or something along these lines, or flood defence systems that can be fitted, then we're more than happy to be actively involved in providing that advice.
Thank you for that. Yes, there's local resilience. We've got the sandbags in place, ready to go. But it's just if people want advice on how to protect their property,
yeah,
that pre-stage, if you like, to put it that way. Yeah. But thanks for that. Thank you.
Councillor Leishman, for your second question.
Thanks, Convener. What are the capabilities of retained duty system stations regards flood response when major flooding incidents means resources are required over a wide area and water rescue stations may be tied at one incident? For context, as you mentioned, when Brecon had major floods in 2023 and it needed water rescue resources from a considerable amount of Scotland, but there were also other places flooding.
Yeah, so on-call stations, you would have seen from the list, 6 of our on-call stations within Peakade area are level 2 flood responders. Excuse me. We've also got another 32 level 2 flood responders stations just south of Perth, within Stirling, Clacton, Fife, and Edinburgh side of things, and Falkirk, West Lothian. So we have got a lot of on-call stations who are flood responders, and they can be utilised in other areas across I would say across Scotland, but in reality they can be brought into Perth and Kinross area to assist, which they have been done and which has happened in the past. So yeah, so we've got 6 out of our 7 who are on call, if that makes sense.
That's great, thanks very much. My final 2 questions don't actually relate to today's presentation, but they come under the wider banner of scrutiny. The first one is, when is the consultation period scheduled for regarding the temporary removal of Perth's 3rd water pumping appliance from last year?
I'm sorry, Councillor, that I can't have you answer questions outside of what our remit is today. That's the guidance that we're getting from Democratic Services, that conveners need to control the questions and ensure that they relate to today's business. Not that I don't respect your questions and how you want to do them, but your questions need to refer to the business of today, however you wish to word them.
Right. In that case, then, if I can't ask the question, I would like it noted then that I strongly disagree with that, because we are here as councillors, as elected members, and we're performing the role of scrutiny. And when is the next Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee scheduled for?
So at our next meeting in June, we will have the end of year reports. So that pretty much gives you carte blanche to ask anything about the fire service or the police service at that committee, because all aspects of the service will be under review at the end of year report.
Doesn't seem democratic, fair, or in the interest of proper scrutiny that we have to wait until June, which is a few months away now, to ask and get answers to questions.
I can take this offline with you if you wish, but this is how our committee services are. Our committees are structured. They're structured around an agenda. The agenda across the whole year covers all aspects of the scrutiny that we need to do. That's the way things are. That's the parameters in which we agree and have agreed as councillors to abide to. So we can discuss it further, and we can look at if you have other concerns or whether those concerns can be addressed, but it's not something we can do today, unfortunately. So.
Okay, convener. Yeah, well, I'll certainly take you up on that after the committee then.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ford, do you have another question? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Jim, I'm really sorry to kind of drop this right on you the last minute. It just popped into my mind, and if it's not appropriate to ask you this now, I'm waiting for the convener to jump on me over this. Just if you don't mind me asking you, I'm having a kind of open drop-in session in Invergowrie. It's an area that's within my ward, because you may remember it was flooded quite badly at Storm Babette last year. SEPA, Perth and Kinross Council, and the Scottish Flood Forum are coming. Is that a meeting that you or one of your colleagues may be willing to attend for an hour and chat to some of the locals in Invergowrie about this?
Yeah.
And if so, could I contact you after the meeting to make arrangements?
Yes, it's something I would be happy to come along to and do that engagement. So if you do, just drop me an email or something. I'd be happy to engage with it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
A well-worded question linking into the papers that we have. But I think it's an important thing because I think one of the question that Councillor Donaldson asked was about resilience groups, third sector groups, the police and fire service, and how they all work together. And obviously they have to work with communities as well. So I think it is valid what you came up with, even though it twisted its way around it. But thank you. I don't have any other questions for you, Jim. So thank you very much, and thank you, Serge. Thanks for your input. I think this was very important. I actually have one question that you mentioned it in your presentation. I was going to leave this to last so that everybody else had the chance to ask. You talked about ice falls and the increased risk of that. The average age of the councillors in this chamber will remember the 1970s and early 80s where there was TV advertising, there was stuff at schools reminding people not to go out onto ice and the ice could break, etc., etc. And I wonder with global warming, and we don't get the same ice, we don't get the same frozen lochs and rivers that we did back in the 70s, etc. Is there a plan to be an educational session for school children going forward? Because they are of an age and a demographic that just probably don't understand the risks because it's not really been explained to them.
Yes, within the service there is material that's going out to schools at the moment. Excuse me. It's you're absolutely right. It's not as big as it used to be, and I remember myself being on the ice, and I think it's something that's going to go full circle, and it is part of our kind of water safety input that's been developed. We will start at that time start putting out more on social media and leaflets to schools about walking on ice. So it is something that we're doing now, but it's something that you'll probably see an increase in within the winter months.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Serge. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Yep, we have a comment on the presentation and paper from Councillor Leishman.
My comment isn't actually in respect of the presentation that we've had today. It's a wider comment. Is that allowed?
No. We can't have a meeting where we discuss how we're going to run these meetings and that we agree to something, and then at the very first committee meeting we have after it, we don't stick to those. We can reflect on these things going forward and again discuss how we commit these committees, and that can be done going forward. But I think we have to stick with what is currently agreed. Sorry, Councillor. So we move to item 6 on our agenda, which is the Community Investment Fund. There was a couple of areas in Perth Council that had to have a second round for funding. And we're going to have Lee Haxton is going to come up to the podium from the Community Planning Team leader, and he's going to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Councillors, this report summarises the funding decisions made by ward panels in the Carse of Gowrie and Kinrossshire following a second round of SIF funding, as the conveners alluded to. The report is split into 4 main sections. Section 4 provides the background on the delivery of SIF since 2018-19 and summarises the funding process used for this year. Section 5 summarises the funding decisions made by those 2 ward panels, with 15 awards made totalling just under £20,000. And Section 6 confirms the additional budget allocation of £300,000 for 2024-25 and identifies some possible improvements for that process. David Stoko and I are both here, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes, I have a question from yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I think you just referenced there that there's 300,000 for next year. Is that a reduction from the year we've just discussed, in other words, the past year?
I would need to double check, but I think last year's allocation was 400,000 plus some underspend.
Okay, thank you.
I'm pausing to see whether anybody else has any other questions? I will now move the report. This report sets out how 2 ward panels have used their remaining SIF allocations across the 2 wards. The report also sets out where a future round of community investment funding could be further improved. SIF continues to demonstrate this council's commitment to supporting community empowerment and grassroots community projects which tackle local inequality. We are asked to note the funding decisions taken by the ward panels, and to agree the further report will be brought to committee in June, looking to the proposals for 24-25 based on the budget that we only passed a few weeks ago. I'm happy to move that we do so. Can I ask Councillor Sheila McCall to second the report, please?
Thank you, Convener. Just want to say that I'm very pleased in response to feedback from local communities, a second round of funding was put in place for these ward areas. And I think that the financial level of submissions from the communities would seem to demonstrate that an underspend in an initial round of funding does not necessarily equate to a lack of interest or need in any particular ward area. So I'm very pleased that the SIF fund for these wards has been fully utilised, and I'm very pleased to second the report. Thank you.
We're now open for comments. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Obviously, my ward was one of the ones where we came back for a second bite of the cherry, and I know it put you and your staff under a bit of extra pressure. So I'm grateful for you giving us the opportunity to come back again. And it just really needed a little bit more work by people in the ward to try and generate more interest and kind of spread the load, if you like. There was initially a very small number of applications from a very small number of organisations, and we felt as a local community that should be spread. So grateful to you and your colleagues for giving us the extra resource to spread that out, and as a result we ended up with requests far exceeding the money which was available, which in a way, in my opinion, is actually good things. I think it shows that it's working. So just wanted to put on record my thanks for the time that you gave us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Braun.
Sorry, it's taking the time to unmute this morning. Yes, it's just to say I'm pleased that we were able to use these undistributed funds to issue again another round for the SIF. It's a very successful system of allocating money, as you know. I think you've chaired a ward panel in our ward, as I did for 4 years. It's an enjoyable experience. I think the people who sit on these panels feel that it's a worthwhile experience for them, and I'm pleased that the administration is continuing the SIF. I appreciate it's less money this year, but we know it's been a difficult budget to get through. But I'm pleased with your colleagues and yourself that you think this is worth continuing. So thank you for that, and I hope it's going to be a successful one this year as it comes. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think you do feel the community empowerment in the room, the enthusiasm of the ward panel when you do these things, and I agree with you. And we did split the money between the SIF fund and the Green Living Fund, which is the next item on the agenda. So the funding is still there, just in a slightly different way. I have no other comments, so we're happy to move the report. Thank you very much. Now, item 7 on the agenda is, as I just said, the Green Living Fund for 23-24 funding awards. Again, Leah Haxton, could you introduce the report, please?
Yep, thank you, Convener. Councillors, this report summarises the results of the Green Living Participatory Budgeting Fund for 23-24. Again, the report is split into 4 main sections. Section 4 provides background on the Green Living Fund and the process used to deliver it. Section 5 summarises the funding decisions that were reached through a public vote and announced at an awards event on the 12th of March. And Section 6 identifies possible areas of improvement for any future rounds of PB through Perth and Kinross Council. Again, David and I are here happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Convener. First of all, can I thank Lee Haxton, Dave Stokoe and their team, indeed teams, for the work they do. The under 6.4, we state 400,000 for investment in local communities next year, 300,000 for the SIF, 100,000 for local action partnerships. What I do want to ask, and I'm aware of capacity constraints, but I think one of the most important and useful elements of the exercise is not even just the funds that are handed out, but it's the community fairs, and it's a better place to live fairs, because you bring together all the various voluntary groups and then they can swap ideas. So in terms of your forward planning, is that something that you intend to, in somewhere like Crieff or Ochterard or Kinross or Blair, you intend to hold, continue to hold at least once a year?
It's David Severs that deals with that directly, so maybe ask David to answer that one for you.
Thanks.
No, thanks for the question. So members may recall that for the Warm Welcome Fund for this year, we changed it slightly in terms of asking groups to work together to identify the needs in their communities and put a package, if you like, together, and that worked really well. I think one, it, as you said, it maximises our investment in communities, gets community groups start working together a bit more, and joins that open actually for people in those communities. It's a bit more of a joined up offer. So certainly, I think there was elements of that for the Green Living Fund, with groups speaking to each other in areas about what they were going to deliver and make sure there's no duplication. SIF tends to be a slightly more competitive element to it, I think, because we get a lot of applications, and a lot of applications at a smaller level. So I know for ward panels that can be quite difficult in terms of making decisions they wanted to ensure. So we'll look at, again, a lot of this stems from the criteria, trying to get some commonality in the funding, so that for groups they're not dealing with lots of different processes every time another grant comes out. But certainly, yeah, we want our staff to encourage groups to be working together at a local level.
Just a quick follow-up. Thanks very much. And obviously there's going to be a further more detailed paper come to committee on the 19th of June. But I do, yeah, these community fairs, Better Place to Live fairs, really, I think, are invaluable of bringing groups together, and even just, interchange of ideas, people meeting one another. And I think it's good for community morale as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Forbes.
Thanks, Convener. Lee, sorry, a really specific question, and if you don't have the answer, it's absolutely fine. I was just interested in the project in Strathallan and Strathearn, the cargo bikes, running a feasibility study and setting up a community cargo bike delivery service. Do you happen to know any more about that, or is that too specific for you to have that information to hand? Because I'm just interested in it.
As with all the projects, Councillor Forbes, there is some additional detail provided in the appendix. So looking at that particular project, we're looking at page 33. Now, if there's insufficient information there, then what I can do is ask one of my team members to dig out the application, which we still have access to, and pass on anything that might be helpful for you.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for very specific information. I was more looking for general, but perhaps I could talk to you and be in touch with the people who made the application and follow up with them, if that's okay.
That should be fine. Yep, thanks.
Thank you very much. I think your question demonstrates what Councillor Donaldson was on about, is this working together and then seeing projects in another area and seeing whether they can be replicated in your own area. I think that's a good strength of this fund and a good way of taking things forward. So I think it's really good. I don't have any other questions, so I will move the report. This report sets out the results of the Green Living Participatory Budgeting Fund, which supports projects which tackle climate change and the cost of living at a local level. The quality and range of proposals covering community growing, upcycling, waste reduction, energy conservation, community transport and active travel, and many more. This showcases the creativity, dynamism and sheer hard work of people and groups across our communities. I am pleased to know that over 2,000 residents of Perth and Kinross have taken the opportunity to consider and vote for these projects. They wish to support, and ultimately 37 projects sharing £215,000 of funding between them. We are asked to note the funding award based on the public vote, approve the carry forward of 7,146 for future allocations in specific localities, and agree that a report on investment in local communities as outlined in the 24-25 budget settlement will come to this committee in June. I'm happy to move so and ask Councillor Welsh to second the report.
Thank you, Convener. I'd like to echo and thank the community groups for bringing forward such a diverse spread of projects. Also commend PKC officers for developing and successfully delivering this form of participatory funding. But particularly the members of the public and community groups for enthusiastically voting and supporting the projects. It's important to recognise that going forward, this is a mechanism for dispensing funds through projects that's to be commended, and I note the areas of improvement for the future, particularly around digital exclusion and for assistance with pre-vetting and support prior to projects being taken forward. But I'm happy to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have comments and Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, convener. Just very briefly, I would just like to thank David Lee and everybody else who's involved in dealing with all these applications. The admin, it is quite consuming for them. And I also would like to further thank them for their help on a particular project, the Bank Food Share project, which I'm delighted to say we have secured funding for, and it's providing a brilliant service within my ward, but just to thank them for all their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Leeson.
Thanks, convener. Just a brief comment. I'd like to thank all the organisations and bodies that applied, and congratulations to all the successful bids. We are here and we do what we do to make our communities better, and by supporting local organisations that put ideas forward that will do social good within our communities, and that's excellent. Thanks also to all the residents across Perth and Kinross that voted in the process. Public engagement is absolutely vital. And I'm sure that all of us on this committee either see or at least hear about the ongoing impact the cost of living crisis is having in our communities. And I hope all the projects make a positive difference.
Thank you very much. Councillor Braun.
Yes, thanks, convener. Yes, I just wanted to thank all the team for the work in getting these off the ground and organising all the awards. You'll note, obviously, convener, that the Eastern Perthshire area, which is our area, we've got 6 awardees from our ward. All simple projects, basic, but important. Planting trees for every baby born will obviously have a long-term effect. Surplus food waste being reduced and used for people, and we know in these difficult times people have a cost of living crisis. That's an important factor. But I just wanted to give a special congratulations to the Kirk Michael Community Garden, which actually got the highest award. This has taken a long time to get off the ground, if you pardon the pun. A lot of hard work behind it, and I'm sure they're very pleased to be recognised and have people vote for them. So a special congratulations to them. But I think it's an important project, important factor. The Green Living Fund worked, and all the awardees are well deserving. I think not just in our area, the LAP, but across the whole area. So thank you, convener, for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, convener. I'd like to echo some of the comments made by previous speakers. I think one of the really important things that this scheme illustrates is the strength and capacity of local communities to deliver on the outcomes, particularly with regard to green living and climate change that this council's very keen to foster. So I think it's really good to see places like Glenfarg raise their profile, in addition to other communities such as Letham and Dunkeld, in terms of the grassroots work that they're doing. And I think we also need to encourage that kind of grassroots level of activity and community initiatives. There's lots of really good work done by larger third sector organisations and by community anchor organisations such as Letham for All. But I think one of the important things to take out of the sort of breadth of applications is how do we continue to ensure that small scale grassroots level initiatives are supported, and that it doesn't just become a fund where the more professional organisations who are able to access wider funding end up tapping the majority of it. And that's not to decry any of the applications. I thought the award ceremony was really interesting, and it was really good to be able to show appreciation for the successful applicants for the work that they're doing in their communities. But I would like to see, when we're looking at how we take this forward, that we continue to have a strong emphasis on the small and the grassroots level initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not have any more comments, so are we happy to agree the paper? As this brings us to the end of business for the agenda, can I thank everyone for your attendance today and your contributions, and I now formally close the meeting. Thank you very much.